Sound of rain against a tall window, the solemn tick of a grandfather clock, the rustle of expensive paper. The reading of my grandfather's will was held in the library of his old brownstone, a room that smelled of leather bindings, lemon polish, and him, a faint hint of turpentine and pipe tobacco. It was a smell that felt like home. My brother, Julian, sat behind our grandfather's massive oak desk, already looking like he owned the place. At 32, he was the top-rated estate attorney in the city, his suit costing more than my entire wardrobe. My sister, Evelyn, perched on the arm of a leather chair, her phone silently buzzing with what I assumed were urgent messages from her hedge fund. She was 30, all sharp angles and sharper instincts. I was in my usual spot, the faded velvet armchair in the corner, the one I'd claimed as a child. I wore a simple black dress, my hands folded in my lap. Grandfather's wishes were specific, Julian began, his voice a smooth, professional baritone. He adjusted his glasses. The bulk of the estate, including the real estate holdings and liquid assets, has been divided between Evelyn and myself, to be managed and grown as we see fit. Evelyn allowed herself a small, satisfied smile. And the collection? She asked, unable to hide the avarice in her voice. She was looking at the Ming vase on the mantelpiece. Julian nodded. The Antonius collection. Valued at approximately $47 million. It is to be divided equally between us. Then he turned to me. His expression was one of practiced pity. And for you, Ilara. Grandfather knew you weren't equipped to handle significant financial responsibility. He left you the contents of his studio workroom. He said you'd always appreciated the soul of things. He gestured to a small, scuffed wooden crate in the corner, the kind you'd see in a shipping warehouse. It was filled with dusty brushes, broken frames, cracked pottery shards, and rolled-up, yellowed canvases. The junk room. Evelyn couldn't stifle a derisive snort. Oh, Ilara. Maybe you can write a paper on it. Julian offered a condescending smile. It's sentimental. I'm sure it's full of memories. They looked at me, waiting for the outburst, the tears, the pleas for fairness. I simply stood up, walked over to the crate, and placed a hand on its rough-hewn wood. I looked at them, my face a placid mask. Thank you, I said, my voice clear and steady. This is exactly what I wanted. My name is Ilara Vance. I am 26 years old. I have a master's degree in art history and authentication, a fact my family reduced to useless. They saw my passion as a quaint hobby. But my grandfather, a man who built his fortune on a legendary eye for art, saw it differently. He knew the truth they were too blinded by greed to see, the betrayal wasn't in the will. The will was a piece of theater, and I was playing my part. The real betrayal had happened years earlier. It started with small things. Julian would advise grandfather to sell a minor piece to diversify his portfolio. Evelyn would bring in experts from her financial circle to reappraise items, always for a lower value, suggesting they were overinsured. But the final, undeniable proof came one afternoon about a year before grandfather died. I was visiting, and we were in his climate-controlled vault, a room my siblings rarely entered. He was showing me a small, exquisite Etruscan bronze statue. Julian has a buyer for this, he'd said, his voice tired. He says the market is peaking. He and Evelyn are very persistent. I looked at the statue, and something felt off. The patina was too perfect, the wear patterns just slightly inconsistent with its supposed age. My training kicked in. Grandfather, may I? I asked. He nodded. With his permission, I used the high-resolution microscope he kept for his own examinations. Under magnification, the truth was revealed. Tiny, modern tool marks. A chemical composition in the patina that wasn't ancient. It was a fake. A brilliant one, but a fake. We spent the next week in silence, examining the entire collection. The Monet? A skilled forgery. The set of Tang Dynasty horsemen? Expert replicas. The collection they were fighting over, the foundation of the family's perceived wealth, was a masterful set of counterfeits. Grandfather confessed, his voice heavy with shame. Decades ago, after a near-catastrophic theft, he'd had the entire collection replicated. The originals were moved to a secret, secure location. The forgeries were displayed as a security measure. He'd only ever told his head of security, a man long since retired. He'd been too proud to ever admit the truth, even to his own children, who only saw the collection as a dollar sign. My siblings, in their greed, never bothered to truly look. They saw the label, not the art. They were so busy counting their future millions, they never realized they were counting zeros written on air. For 5 years, I waited. I watched Julian build a new wing on his house, complete with a custom-built gallery for his half of the collection. I watched Evelyn leverage her inheritance to secure a senior partnership, boasting about her art assets in Forbes. I worked quietly. A junior authenticator at a small, respected auction house. I was nobody. They forgot about me. Meanwhile, using my grandfather's journals and my own expertise, I began the process of authenticating and legally exporting the real collection from Switzerland. It was a monumental task, done in absolute secrecy. The turning point was yesterday. I walked into the office of the most powerful, discreet auction house in the world, not as a junior authenticator, but as a client. I met with the director, a formidable woman named Isabelle Laurent. I placed a single, small item on her desk, the real Etruscan bronze. Her eyes widened almost imperceptibly. This has been lost for decades. The one in the Antonius collection is a forgery, I finished for her. As is the entire public collection. I am the sole owner of the originals. I wish to auction them anonymously. And I want the announcement to be a global event. I slid a USB drive toward her. On it was a digital catalog of the real Antonius collection, along with a signed affidavit from my grandfather, dated years ago, leaving the true contents of his vault solely to me, Ilara Vance, the only one with the eyes to see. The power shifted in that quiet, carpeted office. The game was now mine. They stormed into my small office at the auction house a week later, the day the first press releases hit the art world. The news of the lost Antonius collection being found and auctioned by an anonymous owner was the biggest story in decades. Julian's face was a thundercloud. Evelyn looked like she'd been slapped. "What have you done, you little fool?" Julian seethed, slamming a copy of the Financial Times on my desk. The headline read, "Phantom Collection Emerges, Shattering Art Market." "My job," I said calmly, not rising from my chair. "This is a fraud." Evelyn shouted. "You're peddling forgeries. We have the collection. We have the provenance. You have the replicas," I corrected her. Grandfather had the entire collection duplicated in the 1980s. The originals have been in a vault in Zurich. He left them to me. In here. I tapped the small, wooden crate that now sat beside my desk. Julian cycled through the phases. Anger. "This is slander. I will sue you into oblivion. I will have you arrested." Then, manipulation. "Ilara, sister, think of the family name. This will destroy our reputation. We can manage this together. We can be a family again." Finally, the desperate beg. "Please, you can't do this. My house, my loans, they're leveraged against the collection." "Then I suggest you speak to your bankers," I said. "Because the appraisal on the forgeries you own is about to plummet to zero." I opened my desk drawer and pulled out my grandfather's journal, open to the page detailing the replication of the Ming vase. I handed Julian a magnifying glass. "Look at the glaze crackle pattern on the one in your gallery," I said softly. "Then look at this diagram." He noted the specific chemical compound used to simulate age. "It's all here." Julian, the lawyer, the man of facts, looked at the evidence in his hands. His shoulders slumped. He knew. He finally saw it. The foundation of his entire life was sand. Evelyn was still in denial. "Our experts." "Your experts were the ones who helped you undervalue the collection for grandfather," I interrupted. "They were hardly impartial." "My experts," I said, gesturing to the walls of the world-renowned auction house around us, "are the final word." The color drained from their faces. The collapse was not just inevitable, it was already happening in real time on the global financial news networks. The fallout was swift and public. The story wasn't just about art, it was about a family scandal of epic proportions. The siblings who fought over fakes. Aunt Clara, the family historian, called me, her voice full of awe. "He always said you had the gift, Ilara. He told me you were the only one who saw the art, not the price tag. The family, the sane part of the family, stands with you." Later, Julian came to my apartment, a broken man. "Why?" he asked, his voice hollow. "Why didn't you tell us? And spoil the lesson?" I replied. "You were so sure of your own superiority. You thought my knowledge was worthless. Grandfather wanted you to have exactly what you deserved, the shiny, empty shell. He gave me the substance. I just waited for you to realize you were living in a house of cards." Evelyn never apologized. She sent a text, "You've destroyed us. I hope you're happy." She didn't understand that for me, it was never about destruction. It was about revelation. The collapse was financial, social, and deeply, personally humiliating. Julian's law firm, embroiled in the scandal of its star partner being exposed as the owner of a fraudulent art collection he'd used as collateral, asked him to resign. The bank called in the loans on his mansion, the one with the custom-built gallery now filled with worthless replicas. He was not just bankrupt, he was a laughingstock in the legal community. Evelyn's downfall was even more brutal. Her hedge fund, built on her reputation as a shrewd asset manager, faced a massive investor revolt. How could they trust someone who couldn't even tell a real Monet from a fake? She was forced out, her career in tatters. The social circles that adored her wealth now shunned her for the humiliation. The final, poetic twist was the auction itself. I watched online as the lots came up. The real Etruscan bronze sold for triple its estimate. The Monet study fetched a record price. The total sale of the real Antonius collection netted over $80 million. Every bid was a nail in the coffin of my siblings' former lives. The very collection they had schemed for, the source of their arrogance, became the instrument of their total ruin, while I, the useless art historian, became the anonymous, incredibly wealthy owner of the truth that I didn't just get rich. I got my life back. I started my own art authentication foundation, becoming a respected and somewhat feared voice in the art world. I bought my grandfather's brownstone and turned it into a private museum for a few select, real pieces, creating the legacy he truly wanted. The poetic justice was absolute. The forgeries they coveted became worthless. The junk they dismissed became a fortune. They were ultimately destroyed by the very thing they thought made them superior, their obsession with superficial value. They laughed at the art historian, until the day they became a cautionary tale written in provenance papers and auction records. They taught me that to the blind, even a masterpiece is worthless. And in the end, I didn't have to destroy their world. I simply turned on the lights and showed everyone it was made of painted cardboard. If you've ever been underestimated for your passion, let me know in the comments. And for more stories where knowledge is the ultimate power, subscribe.